like Levi said, thanks for being a part. Man, I started this thing in '02. I was a youth pastor. I went to school up the road at Pacific Christian College. Now it's HIU, whatever that means. But you don't care because you go to Biola and this school's better. I just couldn't afford this one, so I went there. But anyways, started doing youth ministry because I wanted to be a youth pastor, and I noticed, gosh, this is how old I am. This was like 99. When I was doing youth ministry and going, man, dial-up days of internet, you guys were like 10, but you're on, on AOL for like 5 hours a month. And porn was like in 3 minutes what took me like 3 hours to find as a kid. So the whole idea of this whole thing starting was just, let's help those kids that were in our youth group that were struggling with porn. And it was in, it wasn't in their pocket like it is today, but it was in front of a computer screen. For me, man, when I was 6th grade, like, I remember finding it in one of those magazines that Levi talks about in his poem. And we didn't know what to do with it other than like, hey, we liked it, but what do we do? And I remember I went to this Christian school and we're like, Sean, he was the dumb one out of the group, like, put it in your locker. And then he's like, what is it? Well, yeah, cool, I get to keep it. We're like, yeah, but you also get caught with it. And it was like, Sean, take it to your house. Oh, cool, I get to keep it. And where do we hide a porn? And like, it was so hard. It was, now there's apps to hide stuff. Like, I just talked to this mom that's like, my son has 2 calculator apps on his phone. Dude, he's not that big of a nerd. Like, the second calculator app has all his porn and all his images because it's so easy to hide things today. But back in the day, man, it was so hard. And I remember my mom and Sean's mom eventually found that porno, which was probably the best thing ever for me in my life because that saved me of years of maybe possible struggle. It was in the tomato bushes. So when we were looking for it one day, it wasn't there. And your parents, I mean, you don't live with your parents anymore because you're in college. Maybe you do, but like, they always get together with your friends, like parents, only when you're in trouble. Like, my mom didn't even like Sean. She didn't like Sean's mom, of course. And then now she's all hanging out with the porno in front of them in the living room, and we're trying to dig it up. And they always know when you're. My son's listening, hopefully. So we always know when you're doing something you shouldn't do. And so Sean's mom was there, and they're like looking for. Now they're comedians, like, looking for something. Like, no, we're not looking for that. And she did that same thing. Wait till your father get, like, what is this? We're like, oh, it's Dad's. And you always like lie. So, what else? And then they said, wait till your father gets home. And then that led to the same James Dobson cassettes. Those things need to just be burned finally. But it was just this awkward. My dad's like, I think I'm supposed to play cassette with you. He didn't take me camping, but he's like, your mom said I'm supposed to play this. And it's like, okay, Dad, cool. Can we put my Van Halen OU812 album back on? It's like, okay. So that was about it. Any questions? No, this is awkward. And please stop. And who's this old man telling me what not? It was just awkward. And that was the only conversation I ever had. In fact, my dad passed away 2 years ago. My mom, she lives by me now, which is kind of fun. She's over at the house the other day, and we're talking about, because now I'm 39, I can talk to my mom about this. I just found out my mom was a virgin when she got married. And I'm fascinated by that. I was like, Mom, I know you're not going to raise kids again because you're 66, but man, remember the James Dobson tapes? Like, had Dad would have told me, you guys waited to have sex. And we didn't think that was any of your business. I was like, well, like, you just told me what not to do. And it would have been like helpful as like parents to just know, like, why did you wait? Why did you weren't even Christians. Like, why did you think this was special enough? And why did you make this so awkward? And, she's like, can we stop now? And then she proceeds to tell me she's read all 50 Shades of Grey. And I'm like, you're just weird. Like, what are you? And then we got into that whole conversation, which is a whole other talk. But anyways, so my whole story was just like very few encounters with porn. Found out about this thing in college, but we didn't even have computers back then. And then I started working with kids, and they're telling me, hey, here's what's happening. And we just thought, as a response, let's help people. So XXX Church started, in '02 just to help people and let people know you're not alone. And I think that's the biggest thing you'll learn this week, like hopefully with just hearing this over and over again. And this might be a small room and it's a big campus, but I mean, it doesn't mean that you're the only ones that have thought about this. That, I mean, this is something that keeps so many people back from getting free because they don't want to admit that, man, I'm stuck in this. And you'll continue to be stuck in this if you don't just kind of admit that, man, I need help. I need other people. Like, where's that shame? Man, if that shame just went away and you're just like, hey, I can write a poem and share it on stage and go, yeah, that was me, but it's not who I am anymore. But there's so many of us that don't want to, and we don't want to show that side. And so what we wanted to do, first of all, with XXX Church, was let people know there's other people just like you that are going through this. Men, women, young, old, I mean, from 11 to 60-something. Fastest growing addiction among senior citizens. So, I mean, to average age, I mean, my son's kid, I'm a dad now, because that's where I have a son and a daughter, but I was, he tells me in the pickup line at school, hey, that kid, he's got Instagram, and he's showing us all. I was like, oh, who's he following? And he's like, 376 porn stars. It's like, whoa, 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 like, and so I found his Instagram account, and it says, I love pandas. I'm like, you love more than pandas. And I was like, floored. I'm like, I don't even know the kid. He's not even friends with the kid, but you show my kid porn? Like, I'm calling your mom, and I'm calling your dad. And so I was like, hey, this is Craig, and could I talk to Mom or Dad? And Mom answers, because dads half the time don't care about this stuff, which kind of sucks. So Mom continues to tell me that her son misspelled something and just found this. I'm like, no, lady, like, your son's following 300 plus porn stars, and he's 11. And so to me, what I've seen from years ago at 2002 to 2015 last week, man, it's the same problem. It's just, it's coming at us in a different form. It's coming at us quicker than it's ever been. It's affecting girls, it's affecting boys. It's not going anywhere. And so what are we going to do about it? And so this week you have a chance to hear from former people in the industry to people like us that, man, just want to begin this conversation because it's definitely needed. One of the things I learned doing this since 2002 is the conflict. And there's conflict anywhere, everywhere within the sex industry. It was interesting watching 50 Shades of Grey and all the promotion and all that, and listening to the interviews, even with the actors. You know, the main lead was saying, hey, my wife's not going to see this. And she'd be too uncomfortable to watch. And then he was talking about, hey, I wouldn't even do these things in my marriage, in my bedroom. And yet, this movie not only opens at #1 and does so much, but we're fascinated. And people like my mom are reading it thinking they missed out in their sex life because of this fantasy. And so whether you're watching some porn fantasy or reading it in a book, to me it's all the same. It's fantasy, but inside that whole industry is so much conflict. It's so much conflict with the women that we meet in the industry, the men that we meet in the industry, and it's the same conflict that that kid has behind a computer screen or you have in your dorm room of going, I am doing what I don't want to do, like Paul says, but it's the sin inside of me. And yet I've never met somebody in the industry that just blatantly says, I love this. It's awesome. It's great. Like, it's what I wanted to do in my life. Like, I meet people that say, man, I don't want to keep being stuck here. But it pays their bills, or they want to get to college, or they want to do this. And everyone I talk to says, well, eventually stop. The myth at the Christian campus, I'll stop when I get married. And you think like 14 years of this porn struggle into marriage isn't going to like bother you? You think that that's just going to be easy to stop? Like, oh, my best friend just stopped smoking. Well, he tells me to stop smoking. And he's like, he's a pretty strong-minded, willed guy like me, and he's like, oh, dude, it'll be so easy. I was like, no, dude, this is why they have that nasty gum, and they have I've never been, I smoked like maybe a pack of cigarettes my whole life, but like you've been smoking that a day, and you think you're gonna just be able to quit. And then I was like, how's that quitting cigarettes doing? He's like, oh, okay, it's harder than you think. And it is. It's difficult to just stop that. You think one day you get married, you'll just stop masturbating, you'll just stop looking at porn because sex is like always available because you're married now? Like, it doesn't work that way. And I think I thought that going into marriage that, man, these things wouldn't affect me over here. And what I've seen now in 14 years of working with people, this stuff, if it's not addressed, if it's not talked about, it's just going to continue. It's just going to carry on. There's no just, oh, it's that easy because this doesn't replace that. And oftentimes our mind and the images and the things that we've watched, the things that we've kind of thought of in real life, you're never getting those things. And so what you thought would fulfill you now, you're going, man, I would rather take that. I mean, my own mom was like, Mom, a red room with a dungeon? She's like, why not? I'm like, disgusting, because you're my mom, and but it was just like, she's reading this book thinking, wow, that kind of sound. I was like, no, this is a world of fantasy that oftentimes never matches up with reality. So tonight, I just thought I'd share a few thoughts, and then we'll take some questions. We already got some questions that have come in that we want to make sure we get to. But in Corinthians, it says this. It says in 1 Corinthians 7, it says it's good for a man to have a wife and for a woman to have a husband. But get this, it says sexual drives are strong, but marriage is strong enough to contain them and provide for a balanced and fulfilling sexual life in a world of sexual disorder. The marriage bed is a place of utility. The husband seeking to satisfy his wife, the wife seeking to satisfy her husband. Marriage is not a place to stand up for your rights. Marriage is a decision to serve the other, whether in bed or not. Abstaining from sex is permissible, but for a period of time if you both agree to it, and if it's for the purpose of prayer and fasting. Then come back together, because Satan has a way of tempting us when we least expect it. Hey, I'm not, commanding these periods of abstinence, only providing my best counsel if you choose them. And then he goes on to talk about it might be better for some of you to be single, but we'll skip that part. So, you can keep reading if you want. That's a whole other conference. I think the things that stand out to me in this passage written years ago is a world of sexual disorder. Because I think today, we're living in a world of sexual disorder, and yet, man, from the likes of what I'm reading here, it sounds like, in a sense, times haven't changed. This has always kind of been. And when you read this, when people ask, well, tell me why porn's bad. Show me something. And obviously, you take the passage in Matthew that says, don't even look at a woman with lust in your eyes. But when I read this passage, to me, it's everything porn is. When it says, the marriage bed is a place of the husband seeking to satisfy his wife, the wife is seeking to satisfy her husband. It says marriage bed is strong enough to contain and provide for a balanced and fulfilling sexual life in a world of sexual disorder. Married sex is about her, not you. It's about him, not you. Porn is about what? It's about you. What you like. You like this, there's websites and there's niche markets for anything, and they'll keep doing that. And it's so okay, well, I'm bored with this, now I need this. And it's all about what you like, when you like it, how you like it, and you imagine. We're at Texas Tech University in the fall, and a girl stands up asking Q&A for me and this porn star that I debate on college campuses, and she just says, "You're all wrong. Porn has taught me everything I need to know, and nobody does me like me." And then, she got 2 applause, and then I kind of was embarrassed for her because I was like, you've just kind of taken yourself off the market right now with this, college campus, potential. Nobody does me like me. Great. But that sounds miserable for the that you've learned so much what you like and how you like this that no man can ever do. And it's this is backwards. Because porn is teaching you what you like, what you want. And if you go into a marriage one day with just your likes and just how you want it, in and out of the bedroom, that doesn't work. Because the two become one. And I think a lot of times we think, so many Christian kids that go, this high school I spoke at just a couple weeks ago, I'm saving myself for marriage, so porn's actually helping me. Well, great. You get the ribbon and you get to still wear the ring that you got at the True Love Waits conference because you're a virgin, but you have 14-year porn addiction. And so do we really think we've saved ourselves? Do we really think and I'd get beat up if I said, I don't know. I'd almost trade that for that. And I'd recommend you don't do either of them. But I'm tired of talking to Christian kids that are going, at least I'm not doing that. well, because what have you really helped yourself? And what I've seen in dealing with just person after person that are stuck in marriages that are sexless, that are stuck not knowing how to communicate about sex, how to deal with this, how to even talk about your past. And it's just this kind of mess of a situation. Yet the Bible says, hey, in a world of sexual disorder, man, the marriage bed can satisfy all of that. And so to me, as Christians, that's the good news. Like, this can work if we choose to go that way. Like, God's designed this, He's planned this out, and He's figured this out that, hey, His way is better. But some of us are going, no, I'm just going to choose to, chase after that and chase after that. So tonight, if you're struggling with this, got a couple things. First, I would say is you got to talk to God about this. So number one, confess this to God. Like, hey, you can't be embarrassed, you can't be ashamed, you can't ignore the fact that, like, man, this is your helper. The Holy Spirit wants to guide and direct your path. Well, you have access to that. It doesn't mean you'll never struggle. It doesn't mean it will disappear miraculously. But I think so many of us can't just come face to face with God because we're embarrassed, we're ashamed. The movie Shame. I mean, yeah, it was NC-17, and I wouldn't tell, 12-year-olds to go see it. But that movie, just the title, is a guy that did 12 years a slave. And man, you talk about a movie that captures the struggle of this addiction. Just in the title alone, the word shame. And people carry that around, and I think that's what's the most crippling part. Maybe not the image. Maybe not the actual sex that you're having. It's that shame and that guilt that then just weighs you down. To the point where you can't even go to God and talk to Him about it. So I challenge you, whatever it is, whatever you've brought on the computer screen, whatever you're doing, go to God with it. And it's incredible how many people will do that once they're forced. But on our own, I talked to a guy literally last night, friend of a friend in out of state. He said, hey, can you call my buddy? And I said, yeah. He said, on my kid's iPad, my wife turned it on and she found photos of me naked that I've been sending in chat rooms on the one device that wasn't protected. What did you do? He's like, oh, I just told her. Well, he didn't really have any other options, but I was thinking in my head, I'm surprised you didn't, you think about it, how did that just get, and he's like, no, I was stuck. I just told her. I told her I've been dealing with this since 12 years old, and now it's led to chat rooms, and, I'm currently sleeping in a basement, but she's talking to me, and we're working this out. Don't wait to get to that point where you do something that you can't, don't wait. And that's where it goes. The Bible says lust has no boundaries. This lust will never be satisfied. So don't think it won't happen to you. Don't think that I can't tell you how many people I know that I went to college with that have ministry degrees, that wanted to be pastors, that were changing the world, that were doing incredible things. Gone. Marriage is gone. Job's gone. This doesn't just affect that person over there. How many women my boyfriend from high school is now on Facebook, and now I'm going to leave my husband to go. This will get you to do things you never thought you would do. First thing, confess it to God before it's too late. And obviously it's never too late for the Lord, but I think before we get ourselves in a world of hurt, before we walk into a relationship say, God, I need your help. I need your Holy Spirit to help. And confession's not just, sorry, God. It's this idea of saying, God, I want to walk in the opposite direction. Number two, confess this to somebody else. One of the emails that actually came in, the text on the screen, because I was looking at that before I got up there, says, my roommate just confessed this to me today. I didn't say anything. What should I have done? Maybe just the words "me too," if that's the truth, would speak volumes in that situation. Maybe not. Obviously, if that's not your case, don't lie. Don't just say "dude, gross," just or "oh, that's so weird. I've never heard of that." Come on, I think some sort of compassion and some sort of, dude, thank you for being honest. Like, because that's the bottom line. Like, so many people are just lying. You know, there's this podcast you should listen to called Bad Christian, and we sponsor the podcast. We don't sponsor any other podcasts. We sponsor this podcast with these 3 guys because they're the most honest dudes I've ever met. And I said, don't talk about us like a commercial. Just talk about, like, you're on the road and you looked at porn. Last week they talked about they're on the road, they were checking out some girl's butt at the airport. And they'll talk about that on this podcast and not bragging about it, but going, man, this is why we need to talk about this as friends. So if your roommate is willing to take a chance and say to you, I struggle with this, opposed to you walking in, seeing them or seeing her, like, that's brave. And maybe if it's not me too, it's like, well, dude, I want to stop having sex with my girlfriend. I want to stop doing this. Like, I think honesty is contagious when we can actually say, oh man, that is just, thank you for saying that, and let me be honest. Let me go deeper than, dude, how was food tonight, or how was that, or like just surface level kind of stuff. So when I talk about confessing this to somebody else, the Bible says, when you confess your sins, you'll prosper. When you conceal your sins, you will not prosper. So not prosperity here, but just like, hey, the opposite of prosper is not prosper. So like, there's something valuable in saying to other people, hey, I need your help. This idea of sharing videos, sharing where you were at tonight, that's brave. Because it's like, oh, you went to that porn thing? Like, oh, sick. Like, you're, like, everyone, man, you like our Facebook page and people will call you out. Like, people are like, oh, man, why are we losing likes? Dude, you posted an article about masturbation. You think somebody really, I think my mom, well, she's a great mom. She might want that on her feed. But, you know, the average person is going, why did you like that website? Does that mean you have a problem? Like, that's the world that we live in where I get it. But you could share a video. You could say, no, I'm going tomorrow night to this stuff. I want to have these real, honest conversations. We created, like Levi said, the software called X3 Watch. The main reason was people kept writing us saying, I struggle with porn, nobody knows, please help me. And you're like, what do you do there? Like, now I know, but you just sent the email to info@xxxchurch.com, so that's not even a real person. So how can we get you to deal with a real person and then kind of stay out of the way? That's all it really does. So Levi says, Craig, I struggle with this. I sign up. He signs up. I get an email. His email, it says, here's where Levi went. Okay. Time and date. Hey, Levi, that's a weird site that you went on. Oh, no, that's this new hardcore band. Weird. That didn't sound like a hardcore band. Oh, no, it is. No, that's hardcore porn. That didn't happen, but it's for the talk. That's the big part. But then it's just like, why would someone sign up for that? And we've been asked that question so many times. Like, really? People sign up for that? Yeah, over 1 million have used this software. Because they want to tell a better story. They want to live a better life. They want to be honest and open. I mean, I've got friends that play in the NFL that move a TV out of their room when they check into a hotel room. Like, that to me is crazy. That, you know, like for the mindset, like, hey, imagine just bringing down, and they go, I don't want this. I got another friend that, like, he's got to turn off the TV, the porn on the TV, and he travels, plays football, and when he sends a video of himself turning off the TV's porn options on his before 6 o'clock before he checks in a room, or his accountability partners start blowing up his phone. So he shared that story in the news one day with us. And this reporter's like, you're a grown man. You played professional football. Like, you're not a weak individual. Like, why would you? He's like, no, because I'm strong. Because I'm willing to do this. And she's like, oh, okay, I don't know what to say. Enjoy the football game. But it was like, it was just like, no, this is a sign of strength when you can actually say to your friend, hey, I struggle with this. I'm surprised you didn't caught me. I'm surprised you didn't see it. I actually was on your computer because I didn't want to get caught on mine. So, like, and you actually just say, hey, well, why don't we now take the next step and help each other so we just don't watch each other keep falling. And then be honest with each other. Let me tell you, if you can talk about porn and sex with your friend, with your spouse, with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, you can talk about anything. Everything else is going to be so much easier. Because it's like, this one is like the hardest. Now you're like, oh, dude, we covered that like on our third date. And I love, like, I won't point out who here has worked in our ministry, but any of the women that have gone to the porn shows with us, I'm like, oh, their boyfriends are in trouble one day. Because it'll be like first date material. Oh, I served in this ministry with XXX Church. We go to porn shows. Hey, do you look at porn? Like, that would be pretty awesome because they know, like, what is really going on. It's like, oh, no, I've never seen that. Oh, okay, sure, liar. Okay. But just this idea of going, be honest. Quit just BSing. Like, no, you've got to be honest with people and say, no, I'm struggling with this. And why in a world today when 50 Shades of Grey is #1 week after, and we're still embarrassed to go, oh no. Like, obviously 100 million books, somebody reads this stuff, somebody watches this stuff. 38% of the internet's porn, somebody watches this. So just admit it and say, man, but I don't want to stay there. That's what X3 Watch helps you do. Helps you continue the conversation with a friend. And says, hey, man, I'm going to call you out on this stuff. Not in the cafeteria in front of everybody, but like after, like, I'm just going to say, hey man, I saw some stuff, let's talk about this so you don't stay in that spot. Last thing here, clean it up. The Bible says this, it says, a fool returns to his sin like a dog goes back to its vomit. The only time a dog doesn't go back to his vomit is when you actually physically remove it and there's nothing to go back to. Otherwise, the dogs, they go back to it. Like, you're going to go back to that, the computer. You're going to come here for 5 nights, and if you're still struggling, it's not going to, this is just something that's going to go in, and then you're going to go back to this. Unless you decide, man, 1, I need help. Ask the Lord for that. 2, tell somebody. And 3, go, okay, let me be smart about this and identify where are my weak areas, why. Let me just even ask that question. Like, I can't ask this dog that my mom just got, that my daughter says is our dog, but it's really not our dog, but it threw up the other day for the first time. Nothing like chunky, but it did that. And then Nolan, my son, watched, and it started licking it up. And I can't ask Hop, the dog, why it did that. But I can ask you guys to ask yourself why. It's interesting. It's something we don't often talk about. Why am I running back to porn? Why am I running to this broken relationship that is, we're screwing around, doing all the wrong things? Why? Why? Like, what is going on inside your body to make you go, okay, well, what is it? Are you depressed? Are you struggling with something? Is there something else bigger that is going on, and this has become your outlet? Because you can get rid of all these things, lock down your house, get a flip phone, you could go do some of these things that maybe some of you need to do, but I would encourage you also to ask yourself, man, let me look deep inside and go, why am I here? What is this feeling that I'm actually looking for that is not actually fulfilling anything? But in addition to that, then go, okay, where do I run to? All right, I struggle late at night. I struggle because this internet is filtered, so I switched over to my Verizon LTE, and that's not filtered. So what do I need to do about that? What do I need to do on my phone? What do I need to do on the computer? What do I need to do to end this relationship? What do I need to do? I mean, when I'm telling you about grown professional athletes that remove a TV out of their computer, or out of their TV, that would be crazy, but a TV out of their hotel room. Like, just that visual going, man, if they can go do that and walk down to the counter and say, here's your TV. Like, man, you can't get rid of your iPhone and trade it in for a little flip phone? I walked with another guy that I know that we traded in his iPhone for a flip phone, and it was pretty awesome. It's like the coolest thing to do at Verizon, because one, you have to stand in line and get a ticket, and they're annoying, and they try and upgrade you, and you say, am I eligible for a downgrade? This guy, he played football too, and so it was a small town, and people knew who he was, and they were like, oh, we'll get you the best phone. I'm like, no, he wants the worst phone. And they're like, why? Oh, we don't need to tell you that. But they're like, let me check if you're eligible. I was like, shut up. Like, we're eligible. Just it was like $300 for this thing that only texted and it only took photos, didn't even have a camera. And we're like, well, take it. And they looked at me, and I was like, well, I mean, it's fine. It's what we had back. I mean, you want a pager to go with it? But it was one of those things like, he's willing to make those sacrifices. Like, in the big picture of things, like, that's nothing. To actually go, man, I'm going to get rid of this thing, because right now I can't handle this in my back pocket. Right now I need to get rid of this relationship because it's no good. I need to physically remove this so I don't go back to it. I want to show you this video real quick before we open up for Q&A. This girl I met at a porn show. Well, I met her at a Christian school, chapel, at a high school, and then years later I met her at this porn show. But I think she kind of sums up oftentimes what a lot of us do. Watch this. It's tough to hear, but go ahead and watch this. Hi. So how did you get from Christian school? Did you go from Christian high school right into this? Or were you doing it while you were in school?
Well, I was a stripper while I was in school.
High school?
Yes. I've been stripping since I was 16 while I was going to Christian school. Then I graduated, I was a stripper, and then 2 months after I was stripping after I turned 18, I got into the porn industry.
So your parents did?
They don't like it. They're very, very upset about what I do. Yes, they are. My mom started crying, and of course, my dad doesn't know yet. I don't lie about what I do. I'm very honest. I know it's wrong, but I still do it. So money says a lot.
So you do it for money?
Yeah.
But you know, when you say you know it's wrong, you still, how's your belief in God? Are you still...
I still believe in God, and I believe He's really pissed off at me right now. But He's still there, and He's still watching over me.
You're just kind of doing your own thing, and you think eventually you'll get out of this and kind of go back here?
One day. When I have a lot of money.
It's tough to hear, but I said, what do you think about God? And she says, God's really pissed off at me right now. And they said, well, what do you think you'll, like everyone, like, do you think you'll get out of this? Oh yeah, like that. Like no one's actually going to tell you, like, no, I'm going to keep living like this the rest of my life. No, we all have plans to like stop sinning and to stop and sometimes those plans are like when God gives me something. Like, God, you bring me a wife, I'll stop looking at porn. God, like, oh, you give me a lot of money, then I'll stop being a stripper and being a porn star. But it just doesn't work that way. This idea of, like, God's already fulfilled His promises. God's already told you, like, His way's better. And it was about 6 months from there, we were in Vegas at the porn show, and I was in the elevator. And I love how, like, God does things that sometimes you're like, that's so weird. No, it's not. It's God. And she's in the elevator, and I was like, hi. And she's a Christian school speaker turned porn guy, and now we're in this elevator. And I was like, how's it going, Michelle? And you just saw it in her eyes. Just this, like, she'd done like 50 movies, and it'd been just, like, she was in it. She'd signed with this big contract. I had heard about what was going on, but deep down inside, you just knew that conflict that is running throughout her whole body. I don't want to do this. But I think we do the very same things with God sometimes. Like, God, I'll stop this when, or if, or but, or, when you show up. And I would just challenge you tonight to just stop playing those games with the Lord. When it comes, especially to your sexuality, when it comes to sex, when it comes to porn, like, no, He's like already told you what's better. And if you've done those things, if you've headed there, I mean, man, you can't change the past, but the Lord can. And you can change what you do here on out. And my challenge would be just stop playing those games or thinking about the things that you're doing now don't matter later. Because this stuff stays. We were on a call last night with 90 couples in a small group. I mean, we don't really do real small groups, let's be honest. Everyone was on mute. So I was like, I told my church pastor friend, like, dude, I came up with the best idea for small groups. You mute everybody. But, because they were just all called in. It was like this conference thing where me and my wife and then some other couples talked. But 90 couples, and they all texted in questions, and we tried to answer the questions, and it was just brokenness. It was just a mess of their situations that had never, and this was the first week. These people are just so uncomfortable talking about their past, talking about the pain, talking about sex. Here's a great gift from the Lord, and because of all this stuff, we're not seeing it as a gift. Some of these men and women saw it as a chore. They see it as, this is just painful. And I'm going, man, we've really messed this thing up. So don't think this stuff doesn't matter. Communicate. Talk to the Lord about this. Talk to somebody else and decide tonight to clean it up. Let me go ahead and bring up Levi. And man, I just saw we've got quite a few questions.